Hey everybody, Tony DeFranco here. We've been having a series of open and honest conversations about mental health this week because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I felt compelled to kind of share my story with you and talk about my perspective on being an adult who's lived with both major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder for the entirety of my adult life. On Monday, 2 days ago, I recorded a video where I was addressing those of you who feel like you might be or know that you are dealing with mental health issues, especially depression and anxiety. Yesterday, I addressed the loved ones, the people around us. If you're somebody who feels like there's somebody in your life who may be suffering from a mental health issue, that was yesterday's video. And today I have a kind of a unique perspective. Since I have dealt with this for the entirety of my adult life, and since I have been in a position for many years where I've supervised and managed hundreds of different employees, I have the perspective of being somebody who is an employee who struggles with a mental health disorder. And I've also been an employer who has had employees who deal with mental health disorders. And there's some unique challenges in being an employer versus being a friend or a loved one, or actually being the person who is affected by the mental illness. One thing that you should understand is that clinical depression and anxiety is so prevalent in our society that if you have 30 employees, 10 of them deal with some aspect of clinical depression and anxiety. And of those 10, ready? 3 will get help. 3 will seek professional help of those 10. Something else of those 10, 3 of them don't even realize that what they're dealing with in their lives is clinical depression and anxiety, that it is treatable, that there is help for it. 10 of them are suffering, 3 of them don't know why, and only 3 of them will seek help. Now, in terms of employment, I'm not going to advise you specifically on legal matters of employment, but I would greatly advise you to make sure that you are doing everything that is in line with federal, state, and local employment laws, healthcare laws. I would consult an employment attorney. A good one will not only protect you and your company, but will also protect the individual rights of your employees. So what's the best thing that you can do as an employer? Here it is. Have a vibrant wellness program. Now, you don't have to be a big corporation that the idea of wellness program scares people, like you have to have a whole HR department in order to do this. When I say wellness program, here's what I'm talking about. Put in place policies and practices that promote health and wellness for your employees. If you are the only employee for your company, if you're a sole proprietor, if you're the only employee, you can have a wellness program. If you have one employee, you can have a wellness program. So what does that look like? Well, it can look like making sure that people have the option to have days off when they need to have days off. Vacation and sick/wellness days, however you want to refer to it. But it's important that an employee be able to either have or accrue time that they can take off when they need to take off, because and not just because they have to be in a hospital because they're sick, but because they need a day off. Don't think that you're robbing your company by allowing employees to have time off or by paying employees to have time off. Present absenteeism is a bigger problem for you than absenteeism. Do you understand what that means? Present absenteeism is an employee who physically reports to work, clocks in, comes into your building, but is not productive or is not nearly as productive as they should be because they're out of balance in their lives. So first of all, make sure your employees have access to plenty of time off. Make sure your employees have access to some kind of health care. If you can provide health care for your employees, a group policy, you should do it. You can look into alternatives as well. If you don't think like you qualify for a group policy, or there are plenty of alternatives out there. There are individual policies that you can help your employees get. Make sure that those policies include some kind of an employee assistance program, what's commonly referred to as an EAP, and there are many variants of that out there right now. Sometimes they're just called healthcare lines or nurse lines, but basically what it does is it gives your employee and their immediate family members, usually spouses and children are covered in this as well, the ability to call or chat online to access a healthcare professional if they need to talk about issues of mental health and wellness, and usually to get other types of medical advice as well. If they're sick, running cold, have a fever, not feeling well, they can usually get that kind of advice over the phone or online. So first thing that I would recommend is make sure that you have a sensible and vibrant wellness program for your employees. After that, once you've provided plenty of time off for your employees and you've provided health care for your employees, at that point, you want to put into place some things that can break up the monotony of the day, the week, the month, have some group building activities, some team activities, some fun things that employees can get together to do. It might be a potluck Friday where everybody brings in a dish on a Friday. That's a very simple thing to do, and people generally like to participate in that kind of thing. You can do a fun employee awards program or employee of the month, or I've run a number of those types of programs where once a month either you spin a wheel and give some things out at random, or people vote and you pick somebody, or you just recognize one or two or three people for something that they've done over the course of whatever period of time it is, and you celebrate them. Give people something to cheer about, give them something to enjoy, give them you don't have to, again, this doesn't have to be a budget buster. You don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on something like this. If you want to spend, $20 on a gift card, you can do that. But really what matters is the recognition. What matters is the celebration. So just put yourself in a position where you can reward employees. So let me tell you a situation that I had with an employee that I had to terminate who had an alcohol dependency problem. So to let you know, over the years, I have hired and fired hundreds of people. I've been in the retail business. I've been in the convenience store business. Obviously, those businesses have high turnover, and I've hired and fired a lot of people. And there's only a handful of those stories that stick out in my memory, and here's one of them. There was a person who came to work for us, and she would come to work, she would have a backpack, she would disappear in the bathroom for a long period of time, she would come out, and she would smell of a pungent odor that could have been alcohol, could have been a strong mouthwash or something like that, and people would say, gosh, she comes out of the bathroom and she smells like this. She's got this, this horrible smell about her. And then she would behave strangely. And by that, I mean, she would have a hard time communicating, kind of slurring her words, kind of not walking straight, behaving the way that somebody would behave if they were drunk. So this happened once or twice. And in an evening one time, one of the supervisors who worked for me called me and said, wow, she's here and she's bad. I mean, she's fallen down all over the place. And I said, okay, then this is what you do. I said, for now, until I can get involved directly, I said, go to her and treat her like she's a sick employee and say, hey, you don't seem like you're well tonight. Why don't you take the rest of the night off, and we'll see you when you feel like you're well enough to come back in. So she came back in at her next scheduled shift, and I was ready and had gotten my ducks in order, and I pulled her into an office with another person there to witness. And I said this. I said, I have to tell you that there is a perception that you are intoxicated at work or you've been drinking on the job. Now, she could have said, well, why would there be that perception? But she knew better because she knew what was going on. Had she said that, I would have said, well, for example, at this time you fell over. This time you fell asleep. This time you did this. This time you did that. And that behavior isn't consistent with somebody who is well, and you seem to be not well. So I would have used that type of language, not to accuse her of something, but to say, it seems like you're not well, and there is a perception of this. So she assured me that she was not intoxicated at work, but she wasn't very convincing. Shortly at the next day, she got in an automobile accident, and she was in the hospital, and she was out for a number of weeks. And then when she came back in, after her stay in the hospital, that pattern of behavior continued. And I had to pull her back into the office and say that, your behavior that we discussed before with you doing this, and this hasn't improved. And because of that, we've already made the decision to terminate your employment effective immediately. Now, along the way, so I was in a company that did offer healthcare. We had a wellness program. We had all of these things that were offered to her, the EAP, the other things that I mentioned were all available to her. I had spoken to her about those things. In the first in-office conversation I had with her, I had reminded her that she had health care, that she had an employee assistance line, that she had the ability to take time off. I told her that we want her to be well. I never accused her. I never said, I think you are depressed. I think you have anxiety. I think you're drunk. I think you're a drug addict. I never accused her of anything. I said, you appear to be not well. Here are wellness options that are available for you. But I got to tell you that here's where your behavior is and here's where it needs to be. Now, her behavior never improved, so I had to terminate her employment. That's a difficult situation, and I remember it well. And I can't even, that had to have been, my goodness, that had to have been 25 years ago easily, and I still remember it to this day. So I say that to say employers can be in difficult situation. So what do? You make those wellness things available to employees. If they need them, you remind them these are here for you, but you still hold people accountable for their job performance. And you do it in a way that is legal, federal, state, and local, that is ethical. You do it in a way that you would want to be treated as an employer. If you are an employer, you are or have been at some point an employee. So for me, I have been a person over authority and I've been a person under authority. And I understand what it's been like to be in both of those positions. So I just wanted to share that with you. So thank you for spending time today. Tomorrow, I'm going to post a video where I'm going to be talking directly to healthcare providers. And there's something, just one thing that's really burning that's on my heart in terms of healthcare providers. And then on Friday, I'm going to post a video that's going to be fun. We're going to do some different things. I'm going to share a message of hope for everybody, for all of our audiences, and do a couple stupid things and have a little bit of fun with it. So thank you for tuning in. Look forward to talking to you all soon, and God bless you.